Hey everyone, it is Bridget here from Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, wishing you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. I hope you're well and I hope you are doing safe. Thank you for joining me on this live cooking class, or joining me if you're watching this already recorded. Thank you for joining me, because we've got a bit of a, I think it's a fun class tonight, because it's definitely fun to eat. And I was in the supermarket, I only go shopping at the moment once a week because of the lockdown, and usually whatever vegetables are on special, this is what I like to purchase. And onions were really cheap, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get some of these onions and load my fridge up with onions. So I made pickled onions, I made a French onion soup, and tonight we're going to make a cheesy onion tart. So think roasted onions, then put through a wonderful cheesy tart, like a little tartlet, and you pretty much got what I was concerning myself with when I was looking at all these gorgeous onions that were so incredibly cheap. So onions in general are not too expensive, and you know, they are a really good vegetable obviously to have in your diet, and it's all about getting as many plants into our diet as possible. And you know, the onion is often overlooked or just added into stews at the last minute, but here it's kind of the star of the dish. As with my French onion soup, that's definitely the star of the dish, and the pickled onions as well. So the first thing that we want to think about when it comes to these tarts is looking at our onions. So you can use either white onions, so just your normal plain onions, or if you want to, and I absolutely suggest you do, go for the red onion. Now there's a reason why I say red over white. First thing is, this tends to have a little bit more flavor than the white onion. It also looks pretty spectacular. But if you just notice the brilliant color that we get from this red onion, and that comes from an antioxidant known as anthocyanins. And anthocyanins is responsible for the color. But it's not just about the color, it also means that this red onion is packed way more full of nutrients and phytonutrients, which is the ones you find in plants, than our humble white onion. So if you can use red onions, I definitely suggest you do, because you've got that wonderful antioxidant in it. But not just red onion. Anytime you see a vegetable or a fruit that is red or purple or even crimson, you know, lavender as well, or even blue, think blueberries. You can think about purple cabbage, of course. Red onion is another great one. Red grapes, hence why red wine is so good for us as well. But also, you know, just anything with those beautiful, vibrant colors means it has that antioxidant in it, which means it's more nutrient dense, so it's better for us. So if you want to choose red onion, you can. But what you want to do, even with your red onion, is choose an onion that's a bit on the small side, because we're going to be cutting these into perfect rounds. Why are we cutting them into perfect rounds? Well, that is because we want it to visually look really spectacular as well. So my onion, as you can see, my red onion's a little bit on the big side, hence why I just want to show you size-wise. I've only got really big red onions. So I just want to show you size-wise what we're going to be doing with our onion. So you want to choose two small onions. This will give you 4 tartlets, so 4 little pies. Obviously, if you want more pies, just double the recipe. So for 4 pies, we're going to use 2 small onions, obviously peeled first. And what you want to do, and I'm just using a vegetable knife, you want to cut them into fairly thick, like sort of 1 centimeter or 1/3 of an inch slices. And ideally, you want to get 4 slices out of each onion. That's what you're kind of looking for. I mean, there is nothing stopping you from using the bigger ones, but you might actually have to break them down a little bit, because they won't possibly fit inside the tart cases that we're going to be making. So remember, 4 slices, nice and thick. We are going to be roasting these in the oven because we want them to get lovely and caramelized. So my oven is currently set at 200 degrees Celsius, which is 390 degrees Fahrenheit. You want to take yourself up a roasting tray. I've just got a little bit of baking paper on here, just to help with the cleaning up, because it will get a little bit messy. Messy as in caramelized, so not messy, but it definitely does help with the washing up. So you throw your onion slices onto the roasting tray. Then you want to take just a little bit, and I'm using a coconut oil spray. You could also use a extra virgin olive oil spray, and I just want to really lightly, like not even sort of touch it. It's literally like stand up high and do it just like that. Just a little light spray of either coconut or olive oil. And then we're going to take some of our best friend sticky sauce. You're going to be probably using about a tablespoon of sticky sauce, and you just want to dribble just a little bit of sticky sauce onto every onion. So making sure we get some good flavor going on there. Stickies on. Fabulous. I'm also going to sweeten it up just a little bit, and by way of sweetening it, I'll be using some inulin powder. And once again, you want to use around about a tablespoon and sprinkle it on. This is going to add a bit of dietary fiber to our onions, but of course it's going to make them just a little bit sweet. I don't want them to be sickeningly sweet. I just want them to be a little hint of sweetness. So it's probably less than a tablespoon, about 3/4 of a tablespoon of inulin powder can go on there. Let's not forget, we want to add some mineral salt as well. And if you want to, feel free to add a little bit of black pepper. Can go on there too. And just to really give them a gorgeous flavor, I picked some rosemary from the garden. So you just want to pull down and remove the little leaves here from the rosemary. And then just taking a sharp little knife and just roughly chop the rosemary up. Just into little pieces. You're probably going to have about a tablespoon of rosemary once you're done, but that's up to you. You don't have to use rosemary, by the way, and fresh is always best when it comes to this. You could also use, if you want to, a little bit of fresh thyme. Rosemary or thyme go really, really nice with this little tart. And I have a absolute tree of rosemary at the moment. That's why I'm using rosemary. Okay, so once we're at this stage, what you then want to do is just pop that into the oven, and that'll be in the oven for 30 minutes. Remember, 200 degrees or 390 degrees Fahrenheit. So 30 minutes in the oven. Here's some I prepared earlier, and I did use red onions so you can see the results. So that was up to 30 minutes, and don't they look gorgeous? They look like you could eat them just like that. They're lovely and caramelized. They're nicely cooked through. They're not burnt, because if you burn them, they will go a little bit bitter. So you want to go for that lovely caramelization. That was exactly 30 minutes. I have those results, which is absolutely perfect. So I'm going to set those aside, and we're going to make the next stage. And the next thing that we want to think about is we want to think about making the filling for the pies or the tarts. So in my jug here, I have 4 large eggs, and all you need to do is just to whisk up those 4 large eggs. So it's about an egg pie or an egg tart, which is pretty good. And yes, you could make this as one big one if you wanted to. It's up to you. So give it a really good whisk. And what you want to do is you want to whisk until you don't see any streaks through the egg. So it's really, really well combined. Just like that. And then, this is a lot sneaky. This is a sneaky part that I kind of worked out when I was testing for you guys. Is what you want to do is set aside a little bit of the egg for the pastry that we're going to be making. And the pastry is really easy, by the way. But rather than break another egg, why not just do this? So onto my scale, I'm going to measure out 30 grams of whisked egg, which is about 1 ounce. And I'm going to set that aside for pastry, because I actually only need half an egg for the pastry. I'm like, what are you going to do with the other half? So this is a really cool trick. All right, back to the filling. So once we've got our eggs in there, you can, at this point in time, I'm going to be adding, you can either add dairy if you want to or not. So if you want to add dairy, at this point you could add 2 tablespoons of like a really soft goat's cheese curd, because goat's cheese and onion go so incredibly well together. If you want to go dairy-free, completely dairy-free, then you can also add unsweetened coconut yogurt. So you want to add 2 tablespoons either of the goat's cheese curd, which is a really soft one, or 2 tablespoons of an unsweetened coconut yogurt. Completely up to you. Another thing we're going to add into this, just to give it even more flavor, is I have our wonderful nutritional yeast here. So we're going to putting 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast. So very different to baking yeast or baker's yeast or bread yeast. This one is deactivated and it won't make anything rise, put it that way, but it is so incredibly full of B vitamins, hence why it is known as nutritional yeast, because it's really, really nutrient dense. And it tastes like Parmesan cheese. It's very cool. So we're going to put that one in there as well. And we're also going to add in, of course, why not? We're going to add a little bit of seasoning. And I'm adding just a little pinch of mineral salt. I'm also going to put in a little grinding of black pepper. And just to help with that flavour again, I've got a little bit of nutmeg here. And I thought it would be really, really nice if we add a little bit of nutmeg. Once again, nutmeg goes really well with egg flavours. And I'm just going to add in half a not a tablespoon, half a teaspoon, that's a little one, of our nutmeg's going to go in. Back to the whisk and give it a bit of a mix together. And that is almost the filling done. We will be adding a little bit of grated cheese to it as well, but I'll do that once we're actually at the stage where we're going to be filling these gorgeous little tarts. So once again, you want to whisk it until all either the yogurt or the goat's cheese curd is mixed through really well. And what's really nice about goat's cheese is for anyone who does suffer from lactose intolerance, it is very low in lactose naturally occurring thanks to the fact that it's goat's milk. So some people do find that they don't have as many issues with having goat's cheese, but I'll leave that up to you. Hence why I've given you the option to go completely dairy free by adding in the coconut yogurt as well. So we're going to set that one off to the side. And the last thing that we have to think about is of course the pastry. And the pastry is so incredibly easy. It's one of those recipes that you just fall in love with, because let's be honest, making pastry is not something that people tend to like to do from scratch, because it can be a little bit painful. This is completely not painful. This is really easy to make. So in my little bowl here, I have a little bit of almond flour. So I have 60 grams or 2 ounces of almond flour. Now you don't have to use almond flour. I've also made this pastry with cashew nut flour as well. So you can make, if you can find other nut flours or seed flours, or make your own. And I do that by using, where is it? I take raw cashews and I put it into my spice grinder, and I literally make my own flour. I do the same with sunflower seeds, I do the same with pumpkin seeds, quinoa. You can make quinoa flour in here as well. This little spice or coffee grinder is a lifesaver. So you want 60 grams or 2 ounces of your chosen nut or seed flour. And then you want to add into it, I'm using a little bit of tapioca flour. You could also use arrowroot flour as well. And we're going to be adding in 10 grams of that goes into there. 10 grams, oh, perfect. One time, wonderful. To help bring everything together and make sure it sticks, I'm going to be putting in a little bit of xanthan gum. Just a touch, because obviously this is not a big pastry. There's not a lot going on here. It's pretty small. It is perfect for 3 little tartlets. It is wonderful. All right, 1/4 teaspoon of our xanthan gum goes in there. And of course, we want to make sure that we add a little pinch of mineral salt goes in there as well. Give that a bit of a mix together. And then remember that egg. Do you remember that egg that we set aside from the filling? This is where we're going to add it. Straight into here. Should be about half an egg if I've got my measurements correct. And once again, bring it together, and we're looking to create, I know I'm doing this with a teaspoon, told you it was easy pastry. If you can make pastry with a teaspoon, you know it's simple. And what we're looking for is the ingredients to come together and start to look like dough, which is absolutely what is happening with just those few, look at it, it's almost like magic. And I did it with a teaspoon. I love it so much. Okay, we're pretty much ready to go. This is very cool. Okay, so clean hands, of course. I've got a bit of baking paper here. This is just going to help or assist me with the rolling process. So I don't have to add any more tapioca. I don't have to add any more almond flour to it or cashew flour. It's just going to help that it doesn't stick to me, doesn't stick to the rolling pin, which I have here, but also doesn't stick to the bench. It maintains its integrity, which is what we want. And if you're able to do this, right, you're able to pick it up in your hands, and it's actually not even sticking to me. It's the perfect little pastry, the perfect little amount. And just by stealing some of the egg from the filling, I know, really clever, right? Okay, that's looking good. I've got it in a bit of a circle. It's just going to help with the rolling process. Give it a bit of a squish down. And then taking our little rolling pin, we're just going to roll it out. And what you want to achieve is you want to achieve a thickness of probably a couple of millimeters, if that. So it's not paper thin, but as I was saying, you will be able to get 4 perfect little tartlets out of this, and you might even have some left over. So it's a really easy and you know, it's one of those recipes where a little goes a long way, which is what I love. All right. So down here, already heating up, I have this little beauty. Anyone shops at Kmart, you know exactly what this is. This is my little pie maker. It is on, so I'm just going to open it up just to cool it down a little bit, just to cool it down, as we begin to cut our pastry into rounds. And one of the really cool things about this pie maker, you know, a little electric pie maker from Kmart or wherever you bought your one from, is they usually come with the cutter, which is great. So you want to use the large size of the cutter, because that's for the base of these pies, and you want to cut yourself 4 rounds, and I'll show you just how easy it comes off. Look, see, it's just simple. You know, when you're doing pastry like that, it doesn't become a burden to make your own pastry. I mean, this is probably quicker than defrosting, you know, ready-made pastry that you might find in the supermarket, in the freezer. This is probably faster than when you do that. So the last little bits, just bring them together. This will get our 4th pie. Like I said, it's just like the perfect amount for these 4 little pies. And you know, I've got a 6 pie maker. I know quite a few people have the 4 pie maker, so I don't know whether this was created especially for that. Oh, lost my paper. I'll just fold it over like that. Okay. But it is pretty wonderful. But in saying that, if you wanted to make the large one, I would just double the recipe, and you're going to be able to get a good large one out of that. All right, I think we might be able to get one more. Do some surgery. Yes. Oh, it looks like New South Wales. It's a map of New South Wales. Okay, well, it might be Queensland. It looks a bit too big to be New South Wales. All right, our last little round. Like I said, just do some surgery. Don't worry if it's got a few cracks in it. Once it goes inside the pie maker, every sin will be forgiven. Like I said, this pastry is not just easy, it is also very, very forgiving. So it's really easy to work with, which is nice. All right, scraping it off there. Now that the pie warmer is hot, be very careful at this point in time. Be very careful. We're going to pop our pastry in, and you just want to just gently dab it down. Like I said, if you've got any holes, just do a little bit of surgery. The more rustic, the better. It's always my answer when something doesn't quite turn out as you thought it would. Just tell whoever's wondering, it is rustic, it's country style. Country style little tarts, but they do come out so gorgeous. All right, so 4, and another thing, if you're wondering, if you're really wondering when it comes to these pie makers how they work, the pie holes at the back of the pie maker tend to be where most of the heat occurs. So if you're only making a couple and you want to cook them really fast, put them at the back, not at the front. They will actually cook faster. All right, so we have our pastry in there. I'll steal a little bit from there. I see a little crack. There we go, perfect. We have our little pastry done, it's in. We now need to work with a certain amount of urgency so our pastry doesn't start cooking too much. And you want to start with your large onion and just put it down the bottom. Easy, easy, easy. See, you can sort of see why you don't want to use really, really big onions, because you might only be able to just take out the middle part and use that, because they may not fit in your tart. But that's nothing wrong with that, because you can always save those gorgeous onions for something else, even if you do take them off. All right, over to our filling. You want to add a bit of filling to it, probably about 3/4 of the way full. And once you're up to that point, we've got more onions to use, which is very awesome. So once you're up to that point, take another onion and pop that on top. The more onion, the better, is my motto when it comes to this. Another onion there. Fill up the rest of the mixture. And if you've got any mixture left over, which I have, there is nothing stopping you from doing this, right? Just pop it into the pie holes. Don't waste it. Because what you're making now, let's put an onion in, you're making a crustless. You're making crustless little cheesy onion tarts. Very good. Okay, so we've got those in. They're looking pretty fabulous. There's probably just one last thing that you want to think about doing. And that's if you decide you would like to add some more cheese. And by the way of cheese, is I am using this fabulous aged Gouda. So it is a vintage cheese. It's been aged, I think, for 20 months. So it's lovely and hard. You could knock someone out with this if you wanted to. So you want to use an aged cheese, which is a little bit better for people who do have lactose intolerances, because the natural fermentation process of an aged cheese means that lactose effect lessens dramatically, so it's not so harsh on our bellies. So if you want to add cheese, now would be the time to do it. And you don't need much. Like for all these tarts, you probably only need like 3 to 4 tablespoons of cheese. And you don't have to add cheese, of course. You could just leave them as they are. You could do nutritional yeast as a topping, which is obviously going to be really, really nice. But the other kind of cool thing that you could do, if you want to go dairy free, is you could also choose a vegan cheese, because they tend to be quite flavoursome as well. But everything is up to you. It is completely up to you what you do, as long as you go for the flavour and the nutritional value, and that nutritional value is going to increase, magnificently when you consider going with a really aged, really hard cheese. So I've just left one without cheese. I'm going to do this little crustless one with just a little bit of nutritional yeast to show that I can avoid cheese. Lid goes down. Crack it in, because you want it to cook really quickly. Click it into place, and before too long we are going to have the most fabulous pies. The other thing that I love about this little machine is just how quickly it does things. It's very, very clever. It's one of those little beauties that until you've bought one, you kind of sit back and think, what did I do before my pie maker? Our kids absolutely love this, and I've got a number of pie recipes that I've made already with this, with you guys as well. I've done videos of them. I don't know if you can find us a link for one of our videos that we've done previously with our pies. Then we did bacon and egg pies, which were amazing, and I believe I shared a recipe for a potato top pie, but it was a faux potato top pie because it wasn't actually using potatoes. That was a really delicious. I think that might have been a written recipe as well. All right, I'm going to have a little look because I'm impatient. I'm sorry. I'm going to have a little look, see what's happening. I know. What do they say? That a watch pot never boils and an open pie maker never cooks pies. I have to be really patient. All right, so just to go over the health benefits with you guys while we wait for our gorgeous pies to be ready. So remembering that if you want to choose any type of red fruit or vegetable over its sort of boring pale version. For example, I shared with you guys today in our private group, Bridget's Healthy Kitchen family, that I have fallen in love with purple cauliflower. So I actually saw it first time in the supermarket. I was really surprised. I think the supermarket's really beginning to get into some, a little bit more variety than just carrots and cucumbers and stuff like that. So I had a purple cauliflower. So I was inspired to purchase this purple cauliflower. And what I discovered is that if you buy a purple cauliflower, you should probably avoid making mash with it because it's pretty nasty. Look, it kind of goes grey. It was not pleasant to look at. It tastes fabulous. So it actually tastes really similar. The flavour profile of a purple cauliflower to a common garden variety white one is a very similar flavour profile. So they're both still, lovely and sweet. It's very mild and have that lovely slight nuttiness to it. But remember, as with the red onion compared to the white onion, it's that antioxidant that causes the pigmentation to go red is the reason why we have this nutrient denseness in it, these phytonutrients that are available in these really vibrant coloured fruits and vegetables. So even with the purple cabbage, and yes, don't mash it unless you want to eat with your eyes closed, because it does look like, as someone said, when they made it into soup, it looked like Smurf soup, blended Smurfs. Anyone who grew up in the 80s will know the reference to that one. Smurf soup. Not a pleasant thing when you're trying to encourage your kids to eat more vegetables. They kind of look at it and go, that's not right. And they're right. But there are things that you can do with your purple cauliflower. Really cool things. All right, I'm having a look. Whoops, yes, looking good. Closing it back up again. Sorry, I couldn't resist the temptation. The things that you can do with your purple cauliflower include things like shaving it raw, really thin. Like I would use a mandolin and shave it really, really thin, and then put it through a salad. Raw cauliflower is fabulous, provided you cut it really, really thin. And if you can think about it, this beautiful lavender-coloured cauliflower sliced really thin and then working its way through a gorgeous salad. I mean, it's fabulous. But the way that I really fell in love with it, and because it's winter, is I roasted it in the oven. So I cut it into quite a thick slice, left the leaves on, because we always eat the leaves in cauliflower because they're gorgeous. Left the leaves on, a little bit of salt and pepper, a little bit of sticky sauce, put a little bit of garlic on it, and then just roast it in the oven at 200 degrees for about 15, 20 minutes. And it was stunning. We had an explosion out that side. It was absolutely stunning. I'm going to take these ones out. I think they might be ready. That was just the crustless ones. I heard you explode. Are you okay? It needs a little bit longer. So there are really cool things that you can do with these vegetables. I know it's a little bit unimpressive looking, but if you don't want to go crust, you basically just made an onion frittata with cheese, which is really, really cool. So it still gets a pass. I'm going to put it there. Looking a bit sad, but that's okay. And we're pretty close to our other ones as well. And one of the things about pie makers, and this is kind of the thing when you are cooking in your kitchen or in someone else's kitchen, is you use all your senses. So obviously smell's a big one. You use your sense of smell. But the other one that people sometimes overlook is your sense of hearing. So one of the things with pie makers I have worked out is when the filling starts to get higher in the tart cases, it starts to make more of a bubbling sound in the machine. So I know I'm getting close because I can hear those wonderful bubbling sounds. This looks like an omelette now. It's completely flat. Don't waste anything. That's the key. All right, gonna have another little look. Oh yeah, that looks better. I know you exploded. There's our other crustless one. Looking okay. And just a little bit longer. We're going to go a little bit longer with the ones in there. While they're doing that, I'm going to prepare a little bit more rosemary because I love the fresh herbs. And we're going to sprinkle that on top. And of course, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I love finishing things off. And we are definitely going to finish off our little tarts with a little bit more flavour. So fresh herbs is always a really good one. If you have made my apple chutney, I suggest you put a little pot of apple chutney on the side of these tarts. Absolutely fabulous as well. Just works so incredibly good because it's slightly pickled. and it's a little bit tangy, but there's also a sweetness to it. Just tastes amazing. Great flavour combinations. All right, I reckon we're good to go. Yes, we're looking fabulous. A little bit better than these guys too, these little flat things, but that's all right. We don't want to waste anything. All right, so don't think I need anything to get them out. I think they're just gonna pop right out. Oh yes, oh yes. Guys, love ya, but you're ruining my aesthetics. You have to go there. All right. Oh, look at that. Remember, rustic. These are our rustic pies, but they still look fabulous. And the onion, you want to aim for at least 2 slices of the rounds. If you can fit any more in there, go for it. You know, if you really like onion, go for it. Okay, looking good. Happy. I'm going to get a bit more cheese. I did say that I loved. Do I have my grater somewhere? Oh, I left it. I lost my grater. Can anyone see my? Oh, there it is. Never mind. Go blind. Okay. A little bit more cheese, only if you want to. But why not? I mean, look at that. It's going to melt on top so nicely. Little goes a long way when you use one of these microplanes. And then just a little sprinkle of our rosemary goes on top. And you really have for yourself a wonderful treat. And you've also learned how to make pastry in a couple of minutes. It's pretty brilliant. So there you go, guys. These are good. These would be good as you could have a salad on the side and have it as a light lunch. Shaved purple cauliflower would be amazing through the salad. But of course, these just make lovely little snacks. And the little snacks that you know are really good for you as well. So I hope you've enjoyed tonight's recipe. Of course, I will be sharing this recipe on Bridget's Healthy Kitchen tomorrow. If you would like a printable copy of the recipe sent out to you so you can download it and print it off. Until then, guys, stay well, stay safe. I look forward to spending more time with you right back here in my kitchen real soon. Bye, guys.